Bloody Clothes, Episode 1. Once upon a time, that's the way most stories begin. There lived a beautiful young girl. She was your typical city girl, with hourglass shape and a cute dimple on both sides of her cheeks. Her white set of teeth were a perfect craft from the best craftsman, who crowned his work with a fine gap teeth as his signature. Her brown skin glistered in the ray of the sunshine. She is Ife, the only daughter of an aged widow who lives at the city center, in a house that smelled of herbs and dust. I've accompanied my mother a few times to purchase herbal drugs from the poor widow. That was usually when Honor, my sister, convulsed and gritted her teeth like she was going to die. Our neighbors said that she is an Obanje, but that is a story for another day. If it was a blinding light, just as her name entails, she had the most beautiful figure in the neighborhood and had all the guys perching around her like houseflies. Oftentimes, I sit in front of my mother's provision shop and watched as she danced down the street with different guys. As days ran into weeks, and weeks into months, she began to step down from flashy cars on different occasions. The one thing that made me curious, and not to mention madly jealous, was the features of her different men. They were all handsome and rich from their demeanor. I hate to admit that I can be nosy sometimes, but I didn't really care if I got caught reading up Ife as a book. She could make an interesting cover of a famous magazine, you know. I hate to admit that I almost tripped twice while staring at her. It hurts even more to remember how mother's child made me look like a wet fowl. Mother dragged me by the ear into the shade of her shop and mouth whipped me until I surrendered to her motherly advice and admonishments. Mother's words were so loud in my ears that it kept echoing even in my sleep. All that glitters are not gold. I had so much wanted to be like Ife. Not until yesterday, when the story of her demise came knocking on our door at dusk. Her wailing mother kept shouting, "Efuemo, Efuemo. I'm lost, I'm lost." You must want to know what happened to Ife, right? Yeah, I know you do. But Mama beckons on me to bring the chickens to roost. But I will certainly be back before sunrise. Episode 2. Ada's POV. The scorching February sun has been brutalizing my already dark skin, turning it into a more darker complexion. How do I report this unruly creation to its creator? I feel oppressed. I must have to make it to mother's shop before I collapse and never get to complete my gist. I know you need me alive, so I'll pass. You know, I'm a little bit impatient to tell you all about it. So maybe I can just get talking, since I'm almost a stone throw to mother's shop. Last night, I heard father telling the other neighbors about Ife. He said she set off that morning as usual, dressed to kill. It was on a Valentine's Day, and the whole neighborhood was rowdy and brewing with loud music. I remembered begging mother to allow me attend the little party holding down the street, and she shut me up with an offensive no. I never told you. Mother can be a pain in the neck sometimes. But she was right for stopping me. At least, I am only 17 and I didn't know how horrifying life could be out there. I pretty much felt suffocated whenever she spread her wing of her guidance. But now I know better. Lest I forget, I personally didn't see Ife that morning. But father said she walked a little down the street before she was picked up by a man in Lexus 350. If it were before, I would be curious to know what kind of dress she wore for the outing, and of course, how she looked on her makeover. I must have been crazy, right? Yeah, I was, just a little. On that very day, she left and never returned. I sat in front of mother's provision shop, as usual, but this time with my sister, Honor. Sad to remember how she kept spewing nonsense about cakes, chocolates, flowers, and love, blah blah blah. I hated having to babysit that girl. Whenever she missed school due to her illness, it was a terrible experience for me. She knew exactly where to hit me and snap me back to reality when I'm losing it and trying to escape from this planet. The Valentine's Day celebration ended with me having to clean up Honor's smelly vomits and shudder at her scary manifestation that night. As I was busy helping mother pack up so we could close for the day after the whole rada. Ife's mother dashed into our shop, crying and pacing up and down. Mother dropped off all she had in her hands and went to question her. Mama Ife, what is the matter? Mother asked. My sister, I am finished, she answered almost in a rush. Tell me what happened, Mother questioned further. At this point, I was beginning to lose my cool. Why is she taking so much time to explain the reason for her sudden outburst? Mama Ada, my daughter is missing. No, I think she is in trouble. Oh God, save my daughter, she said and bursted into more tears. I literally held my jaw with both hands and stared at the woman in confusion. This isn't the first time Ife would be late from her numerous outing. So why was she making a big deal out of this? I was getting irritated but decided to stay put and wait for mother to resume the packing, since she had the only available torch in her palm. Mama Ada, they want to harm my daughter. But my God will shame them. Amen. Nothing will happen to Ife. But can you tell me what is going on first? Mother suddenly became curious and wanted to get the real matter. I got a call from Ife this evening. She called with a strange line, and only to hear her crying and pleading with a shaking voice that I should come and save her. She sounded scared, Mama Ada. My life is in trouble. My daughter is missing. By this time, Mother was holding her with both hands, with the torch lying faintly on a nearby table. Did she tell you where she is and what happened to her? Mother questioned. She couldn't even say much. She said she doesn't know where she is at the moment, and she was calling with a phone she found in the room where she is being locked up. Hey, and you still have time to cry? Mother shouted and rose from the chair holding Mama Ife. We need to go to the police station, Mother suggested. Thank you, Mama Ada. That is why I came. Please, let's go. Immediately they both made to leave. My jaw dropped and my hands fell to my laps. I was so shocked that I didn't know when Mother landed the torchlight over to me. Her voice snapped me out of my reverie. Pack the remaining goods and take Honor home. Tell your father I'll be home soon. That was all I needed to be assured that I was still alive. I hurriedly packed up and headed home with Honor in great fear. I was beginning to get scared of this world and the things happening inside of it. What would be the fate of Ife by tomorrow? Will she be lucky enough to come back home safely? Oh, I'm as worried as you are, but I'll keep my hopes high and believe she will be back before they break. Episode 3: Ife's POV. I used to think that I was smart, not until I was caught in my own web. The greatly anticipated Valentine's Day celebration brought me closer to my Waterloo. Now, I live at the mercy of Pat and his friends. Sadly, my tomorrow is not assured. Speaking of Pat, he is my boyfriend of 2 weeks. Now, I know that sounds funny, but that's me. I don't last more than a month in a relationship. To me, it's all about the fun. Once I get enough cash from you, I dump you. I was cashing cruise by letting myself get spoiled by rich dudes. But now I wish I had listened to Mama when she warned me about evil people in the world. I should have known that Patrick and his friends were lunatics who belonged to an awkward group. I was supposed to be in school if only Mama had the money. Life had been unfair to me, which was why I took the bull by the horn and began to use my body for money. But now I've realized that poverty is not even an excuse to live a love life. Mama would always warn me, but she never raised a finger at me. Maybe because I was afraid to lose me. I can recall how Fat promised to take me to Dubai on my birthday and spoil me to the last. I had told my best friend Uju, and she said delightfully that the guy was head over heels in love with me. I was glad because I've never neared the border before, not to talk of crossing it. But there was something about him that gets me scared oftentimes. It was his bloodshot eyes, his huge dreadlocks, and authority over his friends. He always sounded like a boss. I used to like guys with dreadlocks, but Pat's own was different. It felt like there was a secret buried beneath the forest of hair. I was scared, but I didn't run away because Uju assured me that he was a nice guy. Well, I succumbed and hoped to dump him as soon as I achieved my Dubai dream. It all started with a shopping spree and to a tour around town before we ended up at a club where we all danced and got drunk. Strangely enough, I had never gotten drunk in any of my previous outings, but that night was different. Pat teased me severally to take a glass of beer, but I blatantly refused with an excuse that I was having stomach upset. He even went on to preach that the drink would calm my nerves. But that too fell to dust. Then he made a special order for an apple juice, since I had revealed on one of our occasions that it was my favorite. If only I had known that the drink was drugged, and the lunatic would stop at nothing to get it down my throat. As soon as I sipped the drink, my muscles collapsed and I began to get honey. Right then, I switched over to my crazy mood. I could feel my body moving to the sound of the music and a masculine body rubbing all over me and tracing every corner of my body. I hated the feeling inwardly, but my body wanted more. We didn't wait for the party to end, as Uju was reacting the same way I did, and the guys offered to take us home and pleasure us. The willingness to get stripped of my dress and taken to the cloud nine in a crazy way felt so strange to me, but I couldn't stop myself. The cravings kept increasing till we got to the hotel room. All through that night, I had rounds of sex with Pat and his friends. Yes, you are shocked, right? I was gang raped. Would I really call it rape when I was the one that gave them free access to me without even knowing what I was doing? I wouldn't have known all that transpired that night if I hadn't heard their discussion in the nearby room when I opened my eyes the next morning. I had this terrible pain that made me feel very tired and it was difficult to walk. And worst of all, I couldn't remember which hotel we went to. I had heavy headache and pain, which I tried to overlook and sort out for an escape route. As I was scheming for my plans to escape, I thought of Uju and decided to go search for her. I tiptoed to the next room and found her lying on the tiled floor, unclad. I rushed over to her and realized that she was partly awake but too weak to speak. I stood up and grabbed a towel from the dressing room and wrapped her up with it and tried my best to gather her up in my palm and move few steps before I heard the sound of a door opening. I immediately laid her back and ran out of the room. I was going to escape even if it means leaving Uju behind. At least one of us needed to survive. I was lucky enough to get down the stairs and went to the receptionist's office, since the guy in the other room, shouting, was too busy to hear. I guess Pat had gone to check up on me because I saw someone enter the room I slept in the previous night. That was the golden opportunity I was looking for. I quickly arrived at the receptionist table and met a young lady. I begged to use her phone for a quick call, but she objected until I told her in a very few incomplete sentences that I was in danger and my friend was inside, so I needed to call the police. She nodded and brought out her phone, but before she could dial the number, an angry voice roared from the stairs. From the tone, I knew it was Pat. I wanted to run away, but it was still dark. It wasn't even up to 5 o'clock, according to the receptionist, so I knew I was doomed. As Pat descended the stairs with an imaginary smoke oozing out from his nose and ears due to overheated anger, I grabbed a pen from the desk and wrote down a number on her record book, and then I gave a quick sign to the receptionist to help me out. But she just stood there and watched as Pat dragged me up the stairs without looking back. Once we were inside the room, he pushed me away with so much force that I crashed on the floor, and he bent low and picked up my shin with his left hand and landed a resounding slap that left marks of warning on my face. Before I knew what was happening, he tore my dress open and forced himself on me despite my pleadings. As soon as he was done, he left the room, and within a twinkling of an eye, he came back with his friends and they all began to take turns on me. This time, I was fully conscious but too weak to even talk. I had exhausted so much energy trying to escape, and now I was helpless. They raped me until I was bleeding and losing my breath. That was when Pat personally took over and brought a rope to tie me to the bed before I finally collapsed. Episode 4. Ada's POV. The whole neighborhood was quiet and everyone feared for Ife's fate. Would she make it? This was a question no one knew the answer to. We waited patiently for the return of the few persons who went to report the case of a missing person to the police. Not long after, my mother returned with others sweating and singing a song of praise. According to her, Ife had been rescued and her mother had taken her to the hospital for treatment. Everyone gathered to know what brought about the happy mood. Then the good news was spread about Ife's rescue, and the entire neighborhood vibrated with excitement. Few weeks later, Ife returned from the hospital with her poor mother. According to the story, Ife had seen a small phone lying carelessly in the hotel room, So she picked it up and called her mother, who reached out to my mother, and they both went to the police station that night, with few other neighbors around. That was how they were able to bring the police to arrest the culprits and get the hotel closed up in the meantime. Uju could not make it as she was already badly injured before they were taken to the hospital. Ife was lucky to have escaped the terrible experience. Ife may not have been a good example for our girls in this present day society, but she doesn't deserve to suffer such a terrible incident. No one deserves, not even Uju, who died pathetically. Parents should learn to teach their children contentment, just like Ada's mother did. Indeed, dear viewers, all that glitters are not gold. I hope you were able to learn a thing or two from the story. Thank you for listening. Thank you for viewing. Thank you for watching till the end. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel and click the notification bell to get notified when I upload a new video so you don't get to miss any story. Thank you again and bye.